Right, let's go to David Dreier, US Congressman, who's in Egypt as an election observer, joining us now live from Cairo. Congressman, good to have you on this news hour. First of all, what's your job been as an election monitor? What have you seen?
Well, David, I was here on November 28th and 29th for the parliamentary elections and was here a few weeks ago, and I'm very privileged to have been here for the last several days, almost a week now, traveling around, meeting with people involved in the process. As you said, an observer. I was privileged to be given the certification to be able to move from polling station to polling station. And I will say that as I listened to the report from your reporter in Suez, I was struck by the fact that when people are discouraged, what they need to do to respond to their needs is to vote and participate. And that's something that the people here around Cairo, this massive city, have certainly learned to do. And I will tell you that I am very buoyed and encouraged, and as an American who has a tendency to take for granted the franchise that we have to vote and participate, to see the enthusiasm and the sense of hope and optimism in the eyes of young people and old people alike who, for the first time in 7,000 years, are actually able to choose their president is something that is uplifting for me. And I will say, as an American, I look forward to being able to interact and work with the person who is chosen by the Egyptian people to lead this country.
Okay, well, I'll talk about that, who that person might be in just a second, but I was struck by something that you said yesterday. You met an old man who said, finally, Egypt is born. But the reality is, and you must have come across this sentiment, that it's going to be a rather difficult birth, and the first few years are going to be a difficult upbringing.
Boy, I'll tell you, you hit the nail on the head, David. If we talk about birth and go through the process, it is going to be difficult. And again, as an American, my first reaction is to look back at my country, which July 4th of 1776 declared its independence, had a war, and 13 long years later, in the spring of 1789, established a government 223 years ago. And so that's why I say to people here in Egypt experiencing and participating in the Arab Spring, and people in the West, that it's very important to recognize that democracy is a constant work in progress. I like to point to the fact that we in the United States of America don't know how to do democracy. We are still learning. It's a learning process for us, and it will be as this birth has taken place. And it was very emotional when this old man, I just asked him, and immediately tears came down his face, and he feels as if he can finally play a role in determining his future. And that's what self-determination is all about, and that's why we're doing everything that we can to encourage it. But difficult days do lie ahead. 2 million jobs lost, David, as you know, since February 11th of last year.
Yeah, and the country's still losing, what, roughly $2 billion every month, which is why I know that you want to push through this free trade agreement. What chance is there of that happening, and what benefit would you see it having for the Egyptian people?
Yeah. Well, first let me say, David, you've done great research on the things that I'm working on, and thank you for that. Now, I've joined in a bipartisan way. I'm a Republican. A Democratic colleague of mine, Congressman Gregory Meeks from New York, has joined me and introduced a resolution calling for the establishment of an Egypt-U.S. free trade agreement. And I believe that the Arab Spring, the January 25th revolution, is a perfect opportunity for us to do this. Now, having said that, realizing that it took us literally years to just complete the Panama, Colombia, and Korea free trade agreements that the United States of America has done, it's going to take a while to do this. But I think the idea of letting the people know in Egypt that we want to strengthen commercial ties, we want to do what we can to see the economy grow and benefit both Egypt and the United States of America, would create that win-win. So it's not going to happen overnight, but it's something that I feel strongly about, and I hope we'll be able to one day implement.
David Dreier, thanks very much indeed.
You bet, David.
Talking to us from Cairo.
Shukran.